I'm a very admitful person. I can't be fake towards myself.
You take ownership.
So I take ownership, and that's when you reverse the ownership, because some people take ownership of the loneliness, but they don't want to take ownership of what they've done.
Everyone's laughing, and yeah, it's good. All right, so let's get into it. Now we're come to the next part of the show, which is Thursday. It's all about our mental health and personal development. All right, and we have Nicole Daly who's with us today.
Hi guys.
All right, how are we doing today?
I'm very good.
How was your journey getting here?
Oh, it was amazing. It was quite quick, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you coming from Willesden?
Yeah, Willesden area.
So you're from the Willesden Green branch?
No, Kilburn.
Oh yes, I noticed they had some things going on there.
My area.
Kilburn now.
It's his area. It's
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you're neighbours. Maybe you join her one time.
Yeah.
To come to Kilburn branch.
Come to Kilburn branch.
But so today is all about mental health and personal development, right? And here we touch on things that could be unseen enemies that could be affecting people.
Yes.
So for example, we've touched on things previously like like a condition where women conceive a child and they want to attack the child or neglect the child. We've touched on various topics to do with our mental health, the gradient of the mental health of the human being, which is something that has really been identified as to be taken seriously in the past 10 years, right? So firstly, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about what you do and yourself, please.
Okay, so I'm currently working as an engagement and support officer, and also employment specialist. So I work with a project called the IPS, and what we do is we support people who have common mental health issues getting into work or an education outcome. So that could be anything from depression, anxiety, low moods. Sometimes we do have complex needs. So yeah, we don't often take those people because they still need the clinical support. And then once they're ready, then we can actually take them on. So we go into schools, so the project is from 19 plus, and we cover 7 boroughs. And so I kind of run a job club. So my job is now, because I've just recently changed roles, so I'm an employment specialist, and I do a job club every Thursday. It's my favorite day of the week.
Oh yes. All right.
And I also became an author 2 years ago. So I wrote a book. I wrote this book. And it's called Wisdomatic Poetry.
Ooh la la.
And basically it's all of experiences that I've gone through in the past, and I wanted to put it into words. It really helped me as well with my own mental health and situations I was going through, and how to overcome these things, because I was able to overcome. So it helped me to overcome. So it's a self-awareness and personal development book, and it just gives us that insight as well to knowing that you're not alone. So I've come from experiences, as well as had to develop an educational understanding around mental health. I also work as a care worker, part-time. So my other job, which is the support worker, is 3 days a week, and then I work as well in care, and I've kind of got my hands in a few different things, as we know that COVID has,
So you're my friend. You're a busy lady, yeah.
Quite busy.
But obviously, clearly, you're familiar with working with people, in terms of their mental health. And one thing about you is that you actually work to get people, back into being active, you're back into the community, working back into the society, and so you must have seen some interesting things, interesting behaviors and characteristics.
Yes, definitely.
All right, so today we're talking about the subject of loneliness, and it's quite interesting. We're just looking at mental health and it says almost a quarter of adults living under lockdown in the UK have felt loneliness. All right, almost 24% of UK adults, and we're talking about children here, have felt loneliness, all right, because of the corona, but this was also an issue previously. More than 4 in 10, 44% of young people aged 18 to 24 have felt loneliness. So younger people, the demographics even higher.
Yes.
Feelings of loneliness have been more than doubled over the lockdown period. Charity warns about long-term risk of mental health of loneliness, and physical safety is the priority, but mental health impacts must be part of policy development. So there's a lot of things there's a lot, it's not being overlooked nowadays, right? It's not being overlooked, and this is something that's clearly very important. Obviously, we've got listeners from all over the world who are tuning in and would love to know what your thoughts are, what you see happening. Maybe they say in countries where there's a lot of vitamin D, even though there isn't the facilities that the UK has, a lot of people are happier. That's what they say. I haven't checked the statistics, but that's what's being said.
Okay.
But in the UK, it seems like we do have a challenge here. And so, what I want to ask you is this: in what ways what can cause a person to become lonely? What can cause this feeling inside of a person?
I think it's a wide range. Like, there's things like absent fathers, absent parents overall. There's all the attachment and all of the things that wasn't there when a child maybe was growing up. Things like this. Friendship groups could be a reason for loneliness. Traumas, I would say. Traumas from the past could affect people to why they now escalate, or it produces loneliness. There's a wide range. I think as well, when it comes down to you being lonely, you always seem to think that no one likes you, so it kind of dampens on your confidence. There's a significant amount of people who end up being lonely because of confidence, because of the self-worth, because of self-value, self-respect. And I think that overall it's about you as a person. I genuinely believe that loneliness is a mindset. It's not something that it's a feeling that produces and generates a mindset.
That's true, and I can absolutely agree with that, because you touched on two things: self-value and self-respect.
Yeah.
Because things can happen for the person to feel that their value has been degenerated.
Yes.
Right. The person can make choices that make their value feel degenerated.
Yes.
If that's the correct word to say. And self-respect, and I can say this with men because apparently men have a higher suicide rate than women, right? And to a man to have his self-respect being infringed as well, if you're not strong inside, or you're going through some stuff, or you're not okay inside, automatically there's that sense of loneliness that I'm dealing with this by myself, the feeling of isolation. Yes,
defense. When you're solitude, like you're just by yourself, you're on your own wave. Like, I feel like a lot of people as well end up putting themselves in confinement, like because, like I said, it's a mindset, and if you absorb what's negative, like loneliness is something that if you absorb it a lot of the time, you end up thinking to yourself, well, this has now become of me. As the saying goes, what you think of yourself is what you actually become. So I think that it's one of those things where we have to understand and what loneliness is, and whether or not we want it to define us, because in the world that we live today, a lot of people... Sorry, can you... Sorry, I don't lose that chain of thought, but just repeat what you just said just then. That loneliness is a mindset, and whether or not we want it to... define us, so whether we want it to become of us, because a lot of the time, like, I mentor a lot of people, and obviously my chain of work, I always tell people, like, you can't take ownership of these things. You can't take ownership of depression. It's hard. It's hard because I've been there. Like, I've worn those shoes. I've been through loneliness. I've been through a lot of difficulties, and it came from trauma, it came from past relationships, it came from the absence of family members, you know, even grief. Grief is a big element of why people tend to feel lonely. You know, they say a lot of people, when they're elderly, after a person, if you're married and the person passes away, after about 6 months, that next person goes because of loneliness. It's not because of anything else. It's because they've lost that attachment to a soulmate. They've lost that attachment to a person that they genuinely love. And it generates that, you know, you're on your own. But it's something that it won't define you unless you allow it to. And that's something that I've learned over the years of being lonely, of being in situations where I just feel like I'm just literally on my own.
I mean, because, you know, I mean, for you to come and say to someone, all right, you know what, loneliness is a mindset, you know, only if you let it define you. Okay. So, for example, what put you in a place of loneliness?
Okay, so as for me, it was a thing where I think it was, you know, in school, I always wanted to be popular. I always wanted to be that popular girl.
Okay.
Like everyone, I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be very liked. But, you know, the attitudes and my character was likable. It's just that along the way, I lost my focus. I lost what I was trying to achieve in life. And I think because of that, it's like, I ended up seeking for it in different places, like seeking for that absolute, seeking for completeness in so many different places. So whereas I would go drinking, and then, you know, if I'm dating someone and I go drinking because we've had an argument, you go home, you're in your four walls, and it's like, I'm back to being lonely again. Like, it's so crazy because half the time, a lot of people have thousands, not thousands, but hundreds of people around them, or they have a good set of friends, or they have a good set of family members. I came from a very good family. Like my mom, they was all over me, wrapped me in cotton wool. But they have so many people around them, and then they feel lonely anyway because there's something missing. Now, for me, I was just like, I went through an abortion at a young age, and then I felt like no one understood me. No one understood my pain, so I felt lonely. I went through, you know, being abused. I've had every abuse, to be honest, to be quite frank.
So would you say that your need for external validation, because everybody wants to be liked, but that need, that became a need. There wasn't like a balance. That became a need. It kind of shifted. It shifted from I want everyone to like me to being a need. And that led you to make some decisions, right? Choices based on fulfilling the need.
Yeah, so that was, well, dating guys.
That wasn't good.
Well, not every single situation was toxic. You know, there was some good guys out there, but it's just, you know, you go through a relationship and then you're abused, and then you think, okay, I had my rib fractured at 16. So
oh wow, 16.
Yes,
whoa.
My rib was fractured.
Who could raise their hand to fracture your rib at 16? What?
It's crazy, but
wow.
That situation was like any other relationship is better than having a fractured rib. You know, and what you don't realize is because I never dealt with my situation myself, and I never took that time out, and I would touch on that later, but because I never took that time out to really get to know myself again, I moved on to another relationship with the same baggage, which was putting me even in more of a detrimental situation.
So it was the same, and would you say it was the same similar circumstances? If
it wasn't physical abuse, it was sexual abuse. If it wasn't sexual abuse, it was financial abuse. If it wasn't financial abuse, it was emotional abuse.
So this is very interesting what you're saying, because on the Breakfast Show, those of you with us on Wednesdays, we have the dynamic deal of Ronald and Patrina come in, and we actually are going through the book review of Bulletproof Dating.
Oh, I'm reading that now.
You're reading it now. It's awesome. It's amazing. Awesome. Those of you who are following with us, it's awesome. And it speaks about, if you come out of a relationship, especially a long-term one, if you come out of a relationship, you have to take time and assess what actually happened. take time and assess yourself what went wrong, because it even said when we was going through it, it was yesterday was Wednesday, right? Yeah, people can run straight into a relationship, and like what you're saying, they see a repetition of something similar.
As we used to call it, was a rebound, and in that rebound, you're affecting somebody else as well. Even that person may have his own demons, his own traumas. So it's like you're going through another situation thinking that you've got everything sus, because when something's fresh, you think you're not gonna make those same mistakes, but in actual fact, you are, because you're looking for validation from the person. You're making it a pressurizing relationship.
Oof, gosh, that's scary. Wow, that's scary. Yeah, I get it. And so if you're someone that is needing external validation, and a guy, and I think there are people who know how to manipulate that kind of situation.
Definitely.
Because, I mean, looking at these statistics and just things in general, it's not uncommon, right, that you could find someone who's needy, seeking validation, and the guys in a particular circle that know how to take advantage. Women as well. Not just to say men.
100%.
I need to get myself straight. But know how to take advantage of that. Right. But you're saying is that because there's that need, because a person can't be by themselves, can't be alone, can't reflect, a cycle occurs.
And literally, like, and that was something that I wore as a glove every single day of going in and out of relationships. Like, you know, I speak to a lot of females, and they would say to me like, okay, but I'm not with anybody right now, like I'm not in a commitment sort of thing. Okay, but if you're not in a commitment, what are you actually doing? Because after you come out of a relationship, especially if it's toxic, you need time to yourself, like you explained. Now a lot of individuals will say, I'm not in a commitment. Okay, so what are you doing? Who are you seeing? Then the person says, oh, I'm just seeing someone, he's just a friend, you know, he's just a friend, or she's just a friend. And I'm like, okay, but then you're forming an attachment regardless. And then when you're hurt because someone's not answering their phone, something so simple as, oh, they don't answer their phone, they're not texting you back, you get in this kerfuffle. And it happened to me, so I know. And there's loneliness to a degree. Like, obviously a lot of people can change the mindset of loneliness. You know, I don't wear loneliness at all. It's not for me. I've been on my own living on my own for 10 years plus. And, you know, out of those 10 years, I've probably been on my own with no relationship whatsoever for 5 years, just over 5 years. And it's been an amazing journey. However, I chose to take the time out to, like you said, reflect, look at where I've gone wrong, because it's not all in the person. And I think one thing about it is you have to admit. I'm a very admitful person. I can't be fake towards myself.
You take ownership.
So I take ownership, and that's when you reverse the ownership, because some people take ownership of the loneliness, but they don't want to take ownership of what they've done.
Of their actions.
Ooh,
wow. Whoa. Now, guys, take that quote. There are people who take ownership of the loneliness, but they don't take ownership of their actions. Okay.
So literally for me, it was a place of reflecting, analysing, examining, you know, examining where I've gone wrong. That's for me, that's a word that I told to myself, is that we have to examine ourselves. We have to really understand what we've done, how we are, you know, what triggered us in that relationship, because different relationships, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with friendships, different relationships are going to bring out different things in you, whether that be good or bad. So you have to see, is it because I don't like to be close to somebody that, you know, sometimes I feel like this person obviously uses me, or what, and how to set those boundaries, because that's another thing. So why
setting boundaries. And I think when you start setting boundaries, that's a sign that you're knowing your self-worth.
Definitely.
Right? You don't allow things just to go into autopilot, or let how we feel or our needs take precedence. We use our mind to set boundaries. I mean, this is really important, right? This is really important. And I don't want to take you off your your flow right now, but just as a tool, in what way can a person set boundaries? for themselves in relationships?
Regarding relationships, you have to kind of know what you are bringing to the table. If you do not know what you're bringing into a relationship, it's more than likely someone is going to take advantage of you. So you have to know what you like, what you dislike, but you have to know your strengths, you have to know your weaknesses, you have to know these things. Like, if you do not know how your body functions, how your mind functions, if you do not know these things, then it's almost then, okay, you're just giving yourself freely. Then you don't have a cap on even what you say. You don't know the limits that you have for yourself, because you're putting everything out in the open, you're putting everything out in the air. And it's like, if you don't kind of like put those limits, set those boundaries, it's like, then what am I actually doing here?
So set boundaries for what you accept and your affiliation with individuals, how close you allow them to come.
Your proximity.
Set boundaries in your communication, within your communication for yourself. So we even spoke about this with one of our guests about learning communication, right? Because sometimes people just, and I'll use this term, I know it doesn't sound nice, but people can vomit whatever's in their heart or whatever they feel. But in doing so, they can make themselves be identified or classed as a lower, quality person, individual, because of the way they behave. We think we're winning by vomiting stuff out because of how we feel, but it doesn't look like that on the other end. It's not reciprocated at all. It's not reciprocated. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. Like, you have to say, exactly, kind of like put it in a nutshell. So definitely communication, your body language, because that's something that I had to learn a lot, because I didn't tolerate certain things, and there's toleration, but there's because of patience, but there's limits to it. Like, there's things that I won't stand for, because I just know that if I go down this path with a person, then it's gonna go left.
And this can be with friendships as well.
Exactly, definitely.
Look, guys, I mean, right now we're going to the heart of it, because one thing that can affect people's judgment are relationships in love life. But as much as relationships are a huge hotspot, it goes into our regular friendships as well. We set boundaries with them, our communication, even work colleagues. We have to be careful. We could be in a workplace but be behaving like a needy person if we're not careful in how we speak and what we do.
Exactly.
Why? Because we want to feel accepted, we want to feel integrated, right? And we end up being lonely as a consequence.
And I think, just as you said that, what kind of came to mind is the supervision of working, like in a working environment. A lot of people say, oh, how are you in a team as a team worker, and how are you working unsupervised? In the sense of being needy, it's like, okay, can you work on your own without having to need somebody every single step of the way? Can you enjoy your lunch break on your own? You have to be able to enjoy your own company. For me, before, I would say I've tried every outcome, like every strategy to overcome loneliness. So I've tried the thing where, I'm just on my own, because I was in a dark place and I had a cloud over me. So I've tried the whole factors of being on my own and just don't want to see the outside world, and you don't want to leave your house, because it became depression. So loneliness actually then produces depression. So I've gone to that severity of it. And then you have the loneliness of, I just want to be around people because I don't want to go home to my four walls. And so in a work environment, if you take that concept and you put it into a work environment, it's like, okay, so can I sit on my own and have my lunch on my own? Do I need to sit at a table with everybody? Because sometimes you sit at tables with people and they're not for you. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, they're not trying to see you progress. And then you become, your result to it is loneliness anyway.
Just to echo that, I remember, like, when I was, we're going to go to a break in a moment, but just to echo that, I remember when I was in college, right? So you had the Robert before the 6-week holiday. Then you had the Robert who came back after 6-week holiday, who was, who got involved with VYG, used KJM, and was transformed, right? Wow. The Robert before had to be with the group, had to be gambling with the group, had to be doing what the other group did, because I couldn't be lonely. But then when I came back, it's like, oh, Robert, we're going to go, all right, go on your way. I said, are you by myself? Right? You get you take pleasure in the loneliness. right? Because that's you're happy with yourself.
Yeah. And literally, as you're saying that, it's like it came to mind about how I was before and then how I was after. Because when I first came, like what changed me was obviously my faith. My faith changed me completely.
Ditto.
But however, and like you touched on the VYG, before coming to the VYG, I used to be someone that would just sit alone. Like, I'll be hiding because I didn't want everyone around me. I felt suffocated.
So once you're needed, you get burned, then there's a total rebound effect.
Like I'm anti everybody. No one can speak to me. I don't want to hear it. I'm just trying to figure out things for myself.
Wow.
But then there came a point where I had to actually join the VYG, but I knew the timing was on point because it was a thing where I said, if I need to stop doing the raving, there has to be something else for me. Yeah. And it led me. It was like, boom, the VYG just landed at me.
So replace something negative with something positive.
But I didn't see it as a positive thing then, you know.
Okay. So, but it's just a replacement.
Yeah, it's just...
Thankfully, it was a positive replacement.
It was a positive.
We have Shirley from our Stockholm crew saying, fear also hinders us from being free. Yeah. Although you know the situation is not a good one, you remain stuck and accepting anything and everything.
100%.
So for example, you don't want to be lonely. So this is when you don't want to be lonely. So you exert like to accept everything that is brought to you, right? And even though the situation is not good, the fear of being lonely again makes you stay where you are.
Yeah, it gives you that. It's like a jacket, innit? If you are, say for instance, you're cold, you're gonna go and get yourself a blanket. If you don't have a blanket, what would you get? You're going to get yourself a jumper. Now that's all something closer to just to wrap around you, or even a a dressing gown. Now it's gonna come to a point where that dressing gown is no longer gonna keep you warm. You're gonna have to go for something else, and a lot of the time that's what happens. Like Shirley said, if you are in a situation and you're like, oh, well, I'm enjoying this because, you know, I have people around me now, like people are warming to me. When I was smoking drugs, substance misuse, and drinking and going raving, it was a comfort to me because I felt like, oh my gosh, now I'm a part of something. It's a belonging. I'm belonging to a group. However, it wasn't correct for me, but I knew that it wasn't correct for me. Like,
so up here, you knew.
I know, because there's an ounce of understanding that it's not good for me. Like when I was smoking, I would hate to wake up the next day and have that sense of smell or that sense of taste in my mouth. But it was like, it's become now, loneliness could become an addiction. It could become something that, you know, okay, I've got these friendship groups, so I'm going to remain with them. I've got this partner. They say that certain partners are like a drug. Like, I'm going to remain with this. So let me remain with this, because now if I go back into this lonely state of mind, because remember, it becomes a mindset, this lonely state of mind, I'm going to just be like, I'm going to be broken. But you should have utilized that loneliness time before, because you wouldn't be broken now.
Okay. So for a change, okay, from what I'm getting that you're telling us today, for a change to occur, there needs to be a moment of isolation and loneliness anyway.
Yes, 100%.
There has to be, whether it's willingly or it's forced.
Yes.
There has to be that space.
100%.
And it just depends on what we do with it. So we can decide to brood in that time of loneliness. We could decide to regret on that time of loneliness. We could decide to assess, which is the most valuable one, because then we can kind of
know where we're going
Or we could just say, I'm going to go back out there and do what I need to do again.
Yeah, and I've done it how many times? So for me, it's a bit crazy in the sense of looking at it from that perspective, and looking at it from a manual perspective, in the mental health perspective. It's overall.
Look, guys, I don't know about you, but what we're hearing here is very, very strong, because maybe you're listening to the program right now and you have this loneliness streak. You know, you smile in front of everybody, but only you know the drive and need that you have to be in people's companies and where it has led you. You know, and the powerful thing about everything that's going on is actually this is gonna be a two-part. Okay, this is a two-part. All right.
I'm excited.
But what we want to do is we want to kind of like take it to, because we've got some more questions here, so we still got quite a bit to go through.
Yeah.
All right, but I want us to go for a quick timeout. Okay, and you're gonna kind of share with everybody kind of, you know, the process that we need to go to, yeah, so that we could start to heal.
Yes.
All right, and then what we could do, we can continue the rest from next week.
Yes,
yeah?
definitely.
And that would be kind of our mental health tip for today at the same time.
Okay,
yeah,
amazing.
but it's been great so far. Look, I've been really enjoying this conversation with Nicole, seriously, because you know, it's amazing when someone who's come through, you know, the challenge, who's come through the situation, shares their stories and encourages someone else. You know, so we're gonna hear about what you did, even how you got into, you know, writing your book to becoming an author, and we're gonna find all that out in just a moment. So guys, stay tuned, stay locked on. This is your breakfast show. All right, wake everybody up, because we ain't finished yet and we've got quite a bit to go through. So guys, stay tuned and we'll be right back after this. Take it away, Captain Hugo.
Yeah.
Alright guys, welcome back to your breakfast show, and it's a wonderful, fantabulous and a fantastic Thursday here today. We're looking at mental health and personal development. We have the wonderful Nicole Daly joining us, sharing with us some powerful nuggets. We're talking about the subject of loneliness. We've touched on it concerning love life, friendships, you know, day-to-day things, when things get really, really toxic, you know, how things can happen. But we're going to have to do a bit of a jump because the subject is so broad. We're going to cover this over 2 days. But for that person right now, that loneliness that there's a loneliness that you withdraw and you separate from people. There's a loneliness that you feel and that prompts you to act differently, to call information. So I mean, like, what kind of process would you go through for someone to help them to heal from this?
I definitely think that you have to utilize and optimize the time that you have by yourself.
So that was a good thing about lockdown.
Yes,
right?
that was by force, because like you were saying, there's loneliness that is by force and there's loneliness that is by choice. Yeah. When you can make a conscious decision that, okay, I need to actually have some time out, and it's not time out for a month, because we've all done that and nothing has happened. It's you take that time out to say, look, I am doing this for me. I need to dig deep. I need to understand what is going on with me and know myself better. Like, and know who I want to be. Like, who do I want to be maybe a year from now, you know?
So that's a huge question. I need to know myself better.
Yeah.
Okay. And no one usually says that. Like, normally people would say, you know, I wonder what they're like, or, you know, I wonder what food they like to eat. I wonder, you know what I mean? Yeah. People wonder externally. Yeah. But you're talking about switching that and looking in the mirror. For you versus you, basically. You versus you, man, literally. In the mirror. Yeah. I'm talking about, okay, so it's okay, so that kind of moment.
So but, literally, so it's about like you versus you. You have to, and a lot of the time, obviously, when you're coming away from loneliness, it's like you have the, like I said, the lack of self-love, self-confidence, self-worth, all the self, you know, acceptance, just to accept who you are with what you've been through, and be able to now, you know, channel it into something positive or something that you want to do moving forward. Now, for me, I took my loneliness, I didn't take it as I took it as a feeling, and then it obviously became a mindset. Now I had to then reverse that. So now I have to take it as, okay, it's no longer a mindset, it's now a feeling, and I'm going to get over this feeling, because I'm not going to be remaining stagnant or in this position for too long. Like, it needs to come to an end, sort of thing. And what I did was I channeled myself to, you know, get to know myself, learn new stuff, learn new things.
So re-educate yourself.
Re-educate myself, because you want better for yourself. You can't remain at the same place. And for me, I went through the journey of, like I said, loneliness, then it became a depressive state, then it became suicidal. Oh wow. So I ended up being suicidal. I took a cocktail of 60 plus tablets to end my life, and I just thought, coming back from that, there has to be a purpose for my life. So you know, I had to get to that point, but not everybody has to get to that point. And one thing I would say to those that are listening, the audience, is use my situation as something that you never want to go through. Like, I never want somebody to have to get to a place of, you know, feeling suicidal and not speaking, because that's what I did for a long time. And
how long?
I took an overdose at 24, and like I started dating at 16. So there was, and in that process of dating, like I said, there was the physical, mental, emotional, financial abuse. So there was steps, but it became a pile. It became a mountain that now, at 24, coming away from my suicidal tendencies and trying to commit suicide, I then had to unpick. Now you don't have to unpick a mountain. You can unpick maybe a pile. You can maybe just unpick one situation, and that's what I had to do. I had to go and now uproot what was the situation, but I had to go through so much. Like, I had to go through so much. Why I was abused, why I was abused in so many different ways. Get to know myself, what my likes are, what I dislike. Yeah,
because I mean, that process of, you know, being lonely, that process of the outcomes of being compelled by that loneliness, etc. You pick up new habits.
Yes, you do.
New
definitely.
mindsets, new vocabulary, new way of speaking, thinking, behaving, seeing. Yeah. So what you're saying is you have to start to unravel
everything. And I'm a person that prays. So what I did was I prayed for what needed to be revealed to me to overcome the situation.
Wow.
Like, because I wanted to be revealed, and that so that I can help God to then release it,
work on it. So
to release it, yeah.
So because sometimes it's like we're in such a messed up place, a dark place, that we can't even see ourselves properly.
Literally,
we're trying to do. You know what you need to do one by one. So you're saying you take it higher. You use the power of prayer, yeah, and using this, you know, you was able to kind of step by step understand probably certain things you would say or do, whatever. You're able to catch it now, maybe.
Where did it come from? You know, what was the root to why I was speaking like this? Why was my persona like this? You know, I came from a place where it was quite enzy. Like, people was claim it as it's the hood, but for me it was just like, I did a lot of things. I used to be on the blocks. Like, I used to be chilling with man them, like, and those words, that vocabulary, even man them, it's like, oh no, I like to say these men or these young men, like,
because that's what will get you a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that kind of language you'll get if you're looking to reboot your life. You want a proper job that gives you, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that it was that redoing, like, re-establishing myself.
See, sometimes some people don't reassess themselves, and they don't go that deep. They don't go that deep even to the articulation of their language and words.
Exactly.
So that was a bit of a thing.
Articulation.
Yeah. So I'm just flowing. Yeah.
Exactly. So even when you touch on that, articulation is such a big thing when it comes to you as a person and to having that confidence, because when you're able to articulate yourself better, it brings forth confidence. It brings forth that ability to understand, okay, I can establish myself somewhere.
So do you think sometimes we have toxic or really negative behaviors because we have a lack of confidence?
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes it's like, oh, everything up in the air because I don't have confidence, you know, in a certain environment to kind of carry my own.
Yes.
You know,
when especially your company that you keep. So before I used to keep a company. I'm not saying that my friends are bad, but because of where we grew up, the surroundings that we was in, it made us to be like, you know, girls out there. So we would just be out there doing madness, wanna be chilling, do with men, being in the clubs, being in the ravens, smoking.
So the goals and habits were different.
It was completely different. Like, if I had my way, I would, like, my own way. Before, I used to be like, okay, I had a specific guy that I wanted to date, and he had to be like this, and he had to be like known in the ends. Like, everyone had to know him.
Know him in the ends.
Like, he had to be known. I genuinely, you know, wanted him to have this standard of people will be in fear of him, because then it would be like, okay, so I have security. No, I'm not lonely. And that was my perspective.
That's a really messed up perspective.
It is.
Because if people fear him, they fear him for a reason.
Yeah, like...
So that when the abuse starts, it's like, but you wanted someone that everyone fears?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And looking at it now, coming away from the situation, now I understand that you have to get your mind right. You have to get your mind right. You can't keep your mind in a box and imprison your mind with all these thoughts, because another phrase that is said is, oh, I'm alone with my thoughts. How can you be alone with your thoughts? You know how many things are going to come to you? Like, you're given an opportunity.
It's like a Pandora's box, isn't it?
Like,
especially if you face a lot of negativity.
Exactly. So you're just going to be there thinking, oh, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough. And you think that these thoughts ain't going to come to you. So I would definitely say dig deep, get to know yourself, and put a challenge up for yourself as well. Challenge yourself to do better.
Fantastic. And you know, and wherever gradient you are in your life, in your mental health, we always need to self-assess, and that's one of the things that keeps being flagged up on the Breakfast Show every morning. You know, when it comes to pursuing success, when it comes to, you know, redefining our life, relationships, etc. This is something that is an important exercise. You know thyself. Know
thyself. I got a poem called "Love Thyself."
Is it? And also you've got this amazing book, right? And this came about you, your realization. Tell us a bit about it.
So my realization of getting to know who I was and putting down all my thoughts to paper.
Is that you on the picture?
Yes, this is me.
Wow.
This is 21-year-old me.
Nice.
I don't know if I look that much different, but yeah, so basically I wanted to really send people wisdom, like give to people wisdom, motivation, and help them to overcome their situation. So a lot of the poems are regarding like mental health. You can find us on Amazon. We recently got to Amazon in the lockdown. I used the time of lockdown to really do things that I needed to accomplish. So we're on Amazon, and we've been rolling for like 2 years. So
brilliant. So wisdomatic poetry, and that's on Amazon, yeah?
Yes, and it's £12
on Amazon. Excellent, fantastic. Definitely, that's something to definitely look into, and I'm sure it will give hope and strength to many people. This program is going to be on YouTube. If you want to revisit the program, just go to youtube.com/robustlifetv. That's right, guys. We've got the URL. Okay, so you can. It doesn't need to be no long code, and definitely we'll have links as well to your Amazon page and to everything that so you can get access to Nicole. So I don't know what's happening with me today. Need more walnuts. All right, but look, on that note, we've got quite a few things to cover, but I think that kind of wraps things up for today. And thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today. And I think that whole thing about knowing thyself, if you want to heal, whether it's from loneliness or whatever, is a really huge key one. Next week, we're going to be going more into it, guys, so that we can know more of the symptoms, so we can be able to help some other people. And we'll have some more questions for Nicole, and she'll be sharing some more golden nuggets with us. Yeah, so Nicole, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got through it today.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you for having me.
All right, and look, we're gonna have her back next week Thursday. And guys, I just wish you all well. I want to thank Captain Hugo, our Brazilian Clark Kent, man of sound. Thank you for being with us today and doing a great job.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you, dear listener, for being with us. We're gonna have at 8:30, we're gonna have Be Inspired. That's gonna be playing. No, Be Inspired. No, Be Inspired. Don't worry about being inspired. But what we will have tomorrow and Friday and Saturday, we're gonna have the replays of the Breakfast Show this week. So we're gonna have 2 programs that are gonna be re-aired, but also you could check other shows on YouTube, the interviews. It's just mainly just the interviews, and you could just stay in touch with us. Just go to Robust Life TV, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and you'll see all our stuff there. Guys, stay powerful, stay strong, stay blessed, know thyself, and we'll be back live on Monday from 6:30 a.m. God bless you. Ciao for now.
Take care. Bye.
Connect online Monday to Friday with special guests for inspiration, motivation to start your morning right. Music, banter, fun and laughter.
Connect when you start your mornings with The Breakfast Show. Only on libertyradio.co.uk. That's right, The Breakfast Show is back. libertyradio.co.uk from 6:30 a.m.